तो आज हम लर्निंग प्रिंसिपल्स चैप्टर 2 की चर्चा करेंगे। लर्निंग लर्निंग इज एक्वायरिंग न्यू और मॉडिफाइंग एंड reinforcing existing knowledge, behaviors, skills, values or preferences, and may involve synthesizing different types of information. The ability to learn is possessed by humans, animals, and some machines. Progress over time tends to follow learning curves. Learning is not compulsory, it is contextual. It does not happen all at once, but builds upon and is shaped by what we already know. To that end, learning may be viewed as a process rather than a collection of factual and procedural knowledge. Learning produces changes in the organism, and the changes produced are relatively permanent. Human learning may occur as part of education, personal development, schooling, or training. It may be goal oriented and may be aided by motivation. Now, characteristics of learning. All children are naturally motivated to learn and are capable of learning. Children learn in a variety of ways through experience, doing things, experimentation, reading, discussion, asking, listening, thinking, and reflecting, and expressing oneself by speech or writing, both individually and with others. Learning takes place both within school and outside school. Learning is enriched if these two arenas interact with each other. Art and work provide opportunities for holistic learning that is rich in tacit and aesthetic components. Learning must be paced so that it allows learners to engage with concepts and deepen the understanding. At the same time, learning must provide variety and challenge and must be interesting and engaging. In view of getting a complete picture of child's learning, assessment should focus on the learner's ability to first is learn and acquire desired skills related to different subject areas. Second one is monitor the changes taking place in child's learning behavior and progress over a period of time. Third one is respond to different situations and opportunities both in and out of school. Fourth one is apply what is learned in a variety of circumstances and situations. Fifth is work independently, collaboratively, and harmoniously. Sixth one is analyze and evaluate. Seventh one is be aware of social and environmental issues. Eighth one is participate in social and environmental projects. Ninth is retain what is learned over a period of time. Now, different forms of learning. Different forms of learning are: first one is conceptual learning. It is a kind of learning about the subject or matter in detail about its principle or ideas, but after learning, students start thinking in abstract terms. Through this, students learn to organize information and facts about anything in logical structure. It provides analytical character to a student. Appreciative learning. This is the second type of learning. In this learning, ideas, attitudes, mental disposition, which are related to positive feelings of mind, plays seminal role. When we appreciate a child for his behavior, activity, etc., then a positive feeling arises in the mind of child. Now child will tend to repeat this behavior or habit in order to be appreciated and feel the same feeling in his mind. Third one is perceptual learning. It is a kind of learning in which students learn by sense that this sense organs and brain is able to perceive and record about the various things, events, incident, experience, etc. Fourth one is associative learning. It is a kind of learning in which a child frames a new memory about an object, entity, event, incident, etc. by linking with already existing memory in his mind. Now we will discuss about principles of learning. So in the principles of learning, first one is nature of the learning process. The learning of complex subject matter is most effective when it is an intentional process of constructing meaning from information and experience. Successful learners are active, goal directed, self-regulating, and assume personal responsibility for contributing to their own learning. Now the second one is Goals of learning process. The successful learner over the time with support and instructional guidance can create meaningful and coherent representations of knowledge. The strategic nature of learning requires students to be goal directed initially. Students' short term goals and learning may be sketchy in an area, but over time their understanding can be refined by filling gaps, resolving inconsistencies, and deepening their understanding of the subject matter so that they can reach longer term goals. Third one is construction of knowledge. The successful learner can link new information with existing knowledge in meaningful ways. Knowledge widens and deepens as students continue to build links between new information and experiences and their existing knowledge base. However, unless new knowledge becomes integrated with the learner's prior knowledge and understanding, this new knowledge remains isolated and cannot be used most effectively in new tasks. Educators can assist learners in acquiring and integrating knowledge by a number of strategies that have been shown to be effective with learners of varying abilities, such as concept mapping and thematic organization or categorizing. Fourth one is strategic thinking. The successful learner can create and use a repertoire of thinking and reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. Successful learners use strategic thinking in their approach to learning, reasoning, problem solving, and concept learning. Learning outcomes can be enhanced if educators assist learners in developing, applying, and assessing their strategic learning skills. Fifth one is thinking about thinking. Successful learners can reflect on how they think and learn, set reasonable learning or performance goals, select potentially appropriate learning strategies or methods, and monitor their progress towards these goals. Sixth one is context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors including culture, technology, and instructional practices. Learning does not occur in a vacuum. Teachers has major interactive role with both the learner and the learning environment. Cultural or group influences on students can impact many educationally relevant variables such as motivation, orientation towards learning, and ways of thinking. Now, seventh one is motivational and emotional influences on learning. What and how much is learned is influenced by the motivation. Motivation to learn, in turn, is influenced by the individual's emotional states, beliefs, interests, and goals and habit of thinking. Positive emotions such as curiosity generally enhance motivation and facilitate learning and performance. Mild anxiety can also enhance learning and performance by focusing the learner's attention on a particular task. However, intensive negative emotions, that is, example is anxiety, panic, rage, insecurity, and related thoughts, for example, worrying about competence, ruminating about failure, fearing punishment, ridicule, or stigmatizing labels generally detract from motivation, interfere with learning, and contribute to a low performance. Intrinsic motivation to learn. The learner's creativity, higher order thinking, and natural curiosity all contribute to their motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty. Curiosity, flexible, and insightful thinking, and creativity are major indicators of the learner's intrinsic motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is facilitated on tasks that learners perceive as interesting and personally relevant and meaningful, appropriate in complexity and difficult to the learner's ability, and on which they believe they can succeed. Intrinsic motivation is also facilitated on tasks that are comparable to real world situations and meet needs for choice and control. Ninth one is effective effects of motivation on effort. Acquisition of complex knowledge and skills require extended learner effort and guided practice. Effort is another major indicator of motivation to learn. The acquisition of complex knowledge and skills demands the investment of considerable learner's energy and strategic effort along with persistence over time. Development influences on learning. Learning is most effective when differential development within and across physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domains is taken into account. Individuals learn best when material is appropriate to their development level and is presented in an enjoyable and interesting way. Overemphasis on one type of development readiness, such as reading readiness, example, may preclude learners from demonstrating that they are more capable in other areas of performance. The cognitive, emotional, and social development of individual learners and how they interpret life experiences are affected by prior schooling, home, culture, and community factors. School influences on social influences on learning. Learning is influenced by social interactions, interpersonal relations, and communication with others. Learning can also be enhanced when the learner has an opportunity to interact and to collaborate with others on instructional tasks. Learning should allow social interactions, respect diversity, encourage flexible thinking, and social competence. In interactive and collaborative instructional context, individuals have an opportunity for perspective taking and reflective thinking, talking and reflective thinking that may lead to higher levels of cognitive, social, and moral development as well as self-esteem. Quality personal relationship provide stability, trust, care, increase learners' sense of belonging, self-respect, and self-acceptance. Now, individual difference in learning. This is the 12th point. Learners have different strategies, approaches, and capabilities for learning, and they are a function of prior experience and heredity. Individuals are born with acquired heredity from their parents and develop their own capabilities and talents in addition through learning and social accumulation. They have acquired their own preferences for how they like to learn and the pace at which they learn. However, these preferences are not always useful in helping learners reach their learning goals. Educators need to help students examine their learning preferences and expand or modify them if necessary. Educators need to be sensitive to individual differences. Learning and diversity. Learning is most effective when differences in learners' linguistic, cultural, and social backgrounds are taken into account. Language, ethnicity, race, beliefs, and socio-economic status all can influence learning. When learners perceive that their individual differences in abilities, backgrounds, cultures, experiences are valued, respected, and accommodated in learning, tasks, and context, then levels of motivation and achievement are enhanced. 14th one is standards and assessment. Setting appropriately high and challenging standards and assessing the learner as well as learning process progress are integral parts of the learning process. Assessment provides important information to both the learner and teacher at all stages of the learning process. Effective learning takes place when learners feel challenged to work towards appropriately high goals. Continuous assessment of the learner's understanding of the curricular material can provide valuable feedback to both the learners and teachers about progress towards the learning goals. Self assessments of learning progress can also improve students' self appraisal skills and enhance motivation and self directed learning. Now we will read about Thorndike's laws of learning and its educational implications. Thorndike has given three primary laws of learning. These are given below. First one is law of readiness. Primary law of learning is the law of readiness or the law of action tendency, which means that learning takes place when an action tendency is aroused through preparatory adjustment or attitude. Readiness means a preparation of action. If one is not prepared to learn, learning cannot be automatically instilled in him. Second one is law of exercise. The second law of learning is the law of exercise, which means that drill or practice helps in increasing efficiency and durability of learning. Learning to drive a motor car, typewriting, singing, or memorizing a poem and music, etc., need exercise and repetition of various movements and actions many times. The third one is law of effect. The third law is the law of effect. The educator must obey the tastes and interest of his pupils. Greater the satisfaction, stronger will be the motive to learn. Now we'll see, besides this, there are three basic laws. Thorndike also referred to five subordinate laws which further help to explain the learning process. These are: law of multiple response. According to it, the organism varies or changes its response till an appropriate behavior is hit upon. Without varying the responses, the solution might never be elicited. If the individual wants to solve a puzzle, he is to try in different ways rather than mechanically persisting in the same way. The law of set or attitude. Learning is guided by a total set or attitude of the organism, which determines not only what the person will do but what will satisfy or annoy them. Prepotency of elements. According to this law, the learner reacts selectively to the important or essential situation and neglects the other features or elements which may be irrelevant or non essential. The ability to deal with the essential or the relevant part of the situation makes analytical and insightful learning possible. Law of response by analogy. According to this law, the individual makes use of old experiences or acquisitions while learning a new situation. There is a tendency to utilize common elements in the new situation as existed in a similar past situation. The law of associative shifting. According to this law, we may get a response of which a learner is capable associated with any other situation to which he is sensitive. Thorndike illustrated this by the act of teaching a cat to stand up at a command. A fish was dangled before the cat, which he said stand up. After a number trials by presenting the fish after uttering the command stand up, he later outs the fish, and the overall command of stand up was found sufficient to evoke the response in the cat by standing up on her hind legs.